Learning a new language is difficult, and learning a complex language such as Croatian is even more difficult. Croatian classes are a must, but a teacher can only spend a little bit of time with you on a budget. One dreams of having a personalized coach that can explain and reinforce those concepts learned in formal lessons, and this is where large language models, such as ChatGPT by OpenAI or Claude by Anthropic, can help. They can easily achieve feats that a few years ago would have taken millions of dollars in research and development. We created a.NET open source tool that uses large language models to help you on your language learning efforts, and in this video, I will show you how the tool works. As I mentioned, the tool is open source and you can download it, install it, and run it, providing you have an OpenAI key or an Anthropic API key. An API key in the context of ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude is a unique identifier used to authenticate and authorize access to their respective APIs. It allows developers to securely interact with the models, sending requests and receiving responses. The documentation in the project has a detailed description of how to install and run the tool. You will only need to have a Microsoft Skill Server, the free edition will do nicely, and an API key. When you run the application, you will see that the tool has 6 tabs called Words, Verbs, Phrases, Verifications, Explanations, and Settings. The Settings tab has a single menu that allows you to choose which large language model you want to use. ChatGPT 4 and Claude Opus are better but more expensive. ChatGPT 4o is my default model since it is very good and has low costs. It is highly unlikely that you will ever use more than 1 million tokens on this tool, and at the time of making this video, the cost of 1 million tokens is about $5. Next, we have the Words tab. This tool allows you to specify a word in English or Spanish, and the tool will tell you the corresponding word in Croatian. What is special about this is that the tool will give you the correct word based on a context. For example, let's say that we want to know the Croatian word for bad, as in, my dog is a bad boy. We just need to enter this into the tool, and the AI lookup function will determine the correct Croatian word. Now let's see if the tool can give us the correct Croatian word for bad, as in, my food has gone bad. Notice that the Croatian word is different. Also notice that the tool is giving us the generic term and is showing you how to use the word in the context specified using the correct declination. The Verbs tab is used to look up the conjugation of any given Croatian verb in present, past, future, and conditional tenses. For example, we can look up the conjugation of the Croatian verb to cook, and the tool will show you the correct conjugation. Notice that we are not looking up the verb from a database, but rather asking the large language model, who understands the Croatian language and has sufficient knowledge of the language to construct the conjugations with a high degree of accuracy. Next, let's look at the Phrases tab. In this section of the tool, we can give it any phrase in English or Spanish, and the tool will produce the corresponding Croatian translation with the closest semantic equivalent. For example, notice that if we give it the phrase, no pain, no gain, the large language model will come up with the closest semantic equivalent and not a literal translation. For this example, the corresponding Croatian reads, without effort, there is no learning, and this is the correct translation. Notice that not all large language models will perform equally. We said before that Claude 3 tends to be more precise, and if we change the model and repeat the question, we get the same answer, but with a lengthy explanation of why it chose this translation. This is superb. The Verification tab is useful to verify if a phrase you wrote as a student is correctly written, and if not, what is wrong. I will give it a phrase that supposedly says, I love traveling around Croatia. The phrase is not using the correct tense and declinations. When asked, the large language model responds with an explanation of the mistake I made and how to correct it. Awesome. This is like having a teacher right by my side. The final Explanations tab is used when you have a Croatian phrase that you want to deconstruct to understand every component. I often read a phrase in a newspaper or a book, and I want to know what each of the words mean, how the words are put together, and how the verbs are conjugated. This is typically what a teacher does, and the large language models perform admirably well. This phrase was lifted from a newspaper article after Croatia lost to Spain in a football match. When asked, the tool will provide a translation of the phrase, a dictionary of all the words used, a list of all conjunctions and prepositions in the phrase, and a list of the verbs in the phrase, together with the conjugation tense and the infinitive form of the verb. I find this part of the tool extremely helpful, since it improves my understanding, and again, this is like having a personal Croatian coach by my side. Large language models have come far and can be used very effectively in the long and arduous process of learning a new, complex language. We hope that you find this tool useful, and if you are a developer, we encourage you to contribute and improve it over time.